Assalamu very warm welcome to Dbtv exclusive. As always, we have an exceptionally wonderful guest with us. His name is Chris Cork, and he has been development practitioner living in Pakistan for the last more than quarter of a century. Though he's a Britisher, he's married here to a Pakistani lady, and he's very much part of diaspora here and diaspora there. Mr. Chris Cork, very warm welcome.
Thank you very much.
Tell us something about your social experience in Pakistan, which the audience just want to listen after this introduction.
Okay, I came to Pakistan as a tourist.
All right.
In 1993, when I rode a bicycle from Karachi to Kunjarab. Karachi on the southern coast and Kunjarab on the China border. I rode across Pakistan at a time when nobody was riding bicycles across Pakistan. And I found a country that was welcoming, open-armed, and that I felt comfortable in.
All right.
I turned round at Kunjarab, having met the woman who subsequently became my wife in 1995.
All right.
Along the way. And then in 1995, I returned here on a 2-year sabbatical from my government post in UK.
All right.
And I took over the management of Nolihal Development Organisation,
All right.
an NGO in northern areas north of Gilgit. And there I stayed and built health centres, schools, infrastructure, water channels, jeep tracks.
All right.
And the good news about that is, although that all happened a good many years ago, I went back last year and I visited all of the projects that we set up in the 90s. They're all running, every one of them.
All right.
All running with different managers, but all running as community-based projects, no donor funding, self-sustaining,
Lovely.
and models of their kind. I would be happy at some point to talk about the positive aspects of NGO work here, which is often ignored.
Okay, we do that. And how did you find Pakistan then and how it is now? Has your experience and your outlook has changed a bit?
Yeah. My wife comes from rural Pakistan, from a village in South Punjab, and that's where I first got to know the country after we married and spent time together there. It was a place where televisions were a rarity, nobody owned a car, there was one tractor in the entire village, fields were small, labour was intensive. All that's changed dramatically. The village that I came to in 95 has almost completely disappeared. Young people have left, field sizes have increased. It's more mechanized, there's no work in the fields, it's all done by machines these days. And the village is full of elderly men and women and very young children.
All right.
Some things have really improved though, dramatically. In the last couple of years, the Punjab government has put in a potable water program.
All right.
Solar-powered pumps. 2 jobs for the village, and the pump comes on twice a day, and the villagers get clean water. Previously, they took their water from a communal tanki, which was massively polluted. And people died, particularly children.
I mean, before that, there was pond as well. Where
there was a pond.
And they would drink water from there as well.
And one of the major causes of death amongst infants was the infection they caught from the water.
Waterborne disease. Right. So here we take a break, and after the break we'll continue this interesting discussion. So please stay with us. Welcome back. So what are you doing these days?
These days I'm writing a book that's a compilation of editorials and op-ed pieces that I've written between 2005 and May of this year. I wrote over 6,000 pieces.
Mostly on development work?
No, mostly editorials and a weekly column.
On development?
But it was whatever happened that week. Plus I was at one point writing 2 editorials a day for some considerable time for English language newspaper. So I'm working on bringing together a lot of material that was generated over those years. Plus I'm closely involved with working with the Abyssine Foundation, which is a Pakistani British NGO working in KP.
Northwest.
Northwest
of Pakistan.
Yeah, the northwest of Pakistan. We build schools in areas which have been difficult. Taliban presence, but certainly at one of our schools, I won't say where, it's where the Taliban send their girls these days.
All right, lovely. Same people.
The same people.
After the abolition, now they have come clean of it.
They certainly are happy to send their girls to our schools.
All right, lovely.
Which I see as a very positive development. Yeah, you know, this is part of the.
Do you see Pakistan coming out of that morass after 9/11 and becoming and peace is being restored to an extent where it is considerable?
Pakistan today is more at peace with itself than at any time since 9/11.
All right. It's been
any time that I have known.
Since 2 decades, almost.
Yes. It's safer. You can travel pretty much anywhere, perhaps Baluchistan accepted, and travel in safety. I do. I travel all over the country. I don't have armed security with me. I buy my ticket on public transport like everybody else, and I travel wherever I want. I've never once felt at risk, quite frankly. There are risks, but you know how to avoid them.
What is the reason, do you think, behind this peace? Do you think it's the reason that the military has neutralized that foreign investment in terrorism? It's kinetic operation that has brought?
It's a combination of things. It's no single factor by.
All right.
Certainly the military have moved to push back terrorist groups in a way that has been beneficial. I mean, part of the problem has been shoved into Afghanistan, and we'll not be dealing with that here. But I think we also have to realise that some of those terrorist groups or some of those extremist groups have realised they're not going to win. And that they're not just fighting a losing battle, but fighting a battle that's going nowhere. And it may just be better to sit at the table
and talk.
And quietly, that's been going on for some years, and I certainly know of that, and maybe even you know of that.
So if I just say that I've concluded, what you're saying is that this peace is organic and it's sustainable. Are you saying that?
I think it's tenable. I think it's sustainable.
And it's organic.
Yeah, and I think it's well embedded. And I think it bodes well for Pakistan. Perhaps best not to comment on the competence or otherwise of the politicians that run the show, but we've gone through the peace window. It's not something that's in front of us. In a sense, it's something that's behind us now. We walked through that opportunity. Terrorism, for the most part, is behind us.
All right.
Extremism, we never really developed an anti-extremist narrative or a countervailing narrative to extremism. That was one of the great deficits of recent years in terms of governance. But that again has kind of occurred organically. Pakistan has evolved almost in spite of itself rather than because of itself. And
in spite of it, very interesting.
yeah.
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 So we did everything to defeat us, but
despite everything that we did to screw it up, we managed to get it right at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And
what are the sore points where you think that, still need to correct?
Food security.
All right. Social sector.
Yeah. Social sector. Most of the deficits these days are big time in the social sector. Stunting, food security.
Okay, we take a break, and after the break we'll talk in detail. So it's a break, and after the break we'll come back and talk on these subjects. So please stay with us. Welcome back. So you were talking about the food security and the social side.
Yeah. Food security remains a major problem, coupled with deficiencies in diet and nutrition, which contribute to a national problem of stunting. Prior to coming to this interview, I did a bit of background reading. 44% of children under 5 in Pakistan are stunted
because of the lack of nutrition.
Because
did you read the title, that full stomach hungry?
Yes, full stomach hungry.
Yeah.
That figure of 44% goes over 50% in Sindh.
All right.
Over 50%. And those children are stunted physically and cognitively.
All right, that's bad.
Their development is impaired across a spectrum.
All right.
It's not just that they're small, it's that their brains, their cognitive processes have not developed as they should. Now, that is a very large proportion of the population.
And that's very alarming as well.
It is deeply alarming. We can do something about it. It's not insoluble. And certainly as far as things like zinc deficiency are concerned, we can definitely do something about it.
Even now?
Yeah, we can do it, and it's in process. It's not, a distant dream. We're actually doing something about it now. And Abyssine Foundation has worked with the KP government.
Do you think these non-governmental organizations, they're working wonderful, or they're good? Or it's just waste of, or they're just gobbling away the donation that is free money coming out from outside?
I've been around the NGO sector for 20 odd years. I've seen good and bad.
Both?
Yes.
But most of them are good or bad?
I think
bulk of it, where the weight goes.
There's been a shaking out over the last decade.
All right.
There were organisations which clearly were pocketing the cash and not doing very much.
All right.
But equally, there were organisations that were filling in the blanks.
All right.
And doing it rather well. We have competent NGOs in this country who suffer from the bad rap that everybody else seems to be getting, ignoring the fact that not all organisations are bad or are corrupt. I, for one, would not want to be associated with a corrupt organisation. You wouldn't find me alongside an organisation that was squirreling away money in somebody else's back pocket. I like to be where I can see the money going and doing good. And so I stick with Abyssine. And some of the work that they do, particularly on the stunting issue and zinc deficiency, that can have a national application. That can be applied across the board in the whole country and address a major problem. The sowing of the new wheat has gone ahead. early indications are that all the trials are even better than we hoped they would be. And there is a real solution to the problem of stunting caused by zinc deficiency.
All right.
We can do that. You know, and that's Pakistan, a Pakistan solution to a Pakistan problem.
Yep.
It's not some foreigner coming in and saying, do this, do that, the other. It's Pakistanis solving their own problems. And that's what I'd like to see a lot more of.
If you just look back and talk about the last 28 years, what is the most vivid memories you have?
The most vivid memories. An elderly man by the side of the road who thought I was an angel.
All right.
When I came across him when I was cycling.
All right.
And he had the most dreadful infection in his leg, and he was just lying by the side of the road, and I gave him first aid and cleaned him up and sorted him out. And a couple of days later, I was in Gilgit, and the story was circulating that an angel had come down and cured this man. What else? I went back last year
Yeah.
to the area where I was working in the 90s. And I now have a vivid memory of the first lady health visitor that we recruited in Nonihal in 1997. She is now the lead woman in public health in Gilgit.
All right.
And meeting her again after nearly
So
20
many
years was a revelation and incredibly rewarding.
Yeah, all right.
She'd gone up through the ranks.
And file.
She'd been abroad for training,
All right.
never married, came back, and gradually worked her way up the ladder of seniority. And there she was in her extremely smart office, seeing the man who was her boss many years ago. And that was an incredibly rewarding moment. It was her achievement, but it was the achievement of the organisation that I work for as well.
It's let them, yeah.
That
channelize her.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, you know, I
Anything, it was the fag end of this very lovely interview you want to say? As a Britisher and a Pakistani, and I mean...
I guess what I'd say is, don't be afraid.
All right.
Come to Pakistan.
All right.
Pakistan is a lot more welcoming than you might think, and about 400% safer than everybody thinks it is.
All right.
This is a country which, almost despite itself, as we've referred to earlier, is doing well.
All right.
Compared to what it was doing 10 years ago.
All right.
It can do better.
And it will do better, or it can do better?
I think it will do better.
All right. Do you agree that Pakistan is a hidden treasure?
A hidden?
Treasure? Like city of Bahawalpur is, you said?
It's certainly unexplored.
It's unexplored. All right.
In many ways. My home city is an absolute gem. All of you watching this, come to Bahawalpur.
All right.
It's a lovely city, and you'll get a welcome from my fellow citizens. I think I can leave this interview with being comfortable with being positive.
All right.
There's nothing phony about it.
All right. Yeah. I can.
If I didn't feel positive, I wouldn't say I did.
All right.
And I think I'd leave it at that.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming
pleasure.
and giving such a lavish time to us and talking in such a very personalized looking back. So very warm welcome once again towards the fag end of this interview, and we come to the end of so with this we come to the end of this program. Next time we'll bring another guest, special as always. So it's goodbye till then.